Yes, hello, it's me. I am Shrimp, aquatic life and all, finally back for another day in the build world. My last upload was too long ago, and that comes from a pretty packed summer with work and stuff. But things have finally quieted down, and I'm ready to pick up the pace for the foreseeable future, to hopefully have more than 3 videos? But anyways, going back in time to July, I did in fact do work on the world when I could, which I'll explain more as I move along on the timeline. But getting right to it, first thing on the agenda, Spirit Halloween's gotta go. Yep, after months of sitting and rotting on this mountain, the overambitious scaffolding is finally coming down. And with it, the Spirit Halloween finally rests until another building opens up for rent. Because finally, for the first time in about 6 months, there's going to be work on the fourth and last hill surrounding this valley. What I want to build is going to be rather large, and that's why I started with opening up a huge portion of land close to the central area. There's also a few reasons why this build is going to be important for me. All of this I'll explain as I move along. At the time of clearing the space, and for most of the early portion of this build around July, Replay Mod wasn't quite available for 1.20, and I got tired of waiting for it to update. So I went right ahead and started working, so fancy shots sadly won't be in this session. Anyways, now we're here with Spirit Halloween gone and a flat mountaintop. It's time to get building. But before I show what I have done, I would like to show you all my primary inspiration, as well as reference, which is taken from one of my favorite games. This is Doom Eternal, a game made of a brilliant combination of fun gameplay, great music, incredible visuals, peak storytelling. But unfortunately, as much as I would like it to be, this is not a Doom Eternal review. So let's talk more about its visuals. So, when you play Doom Eternal, this here is the first thing you see when you enter the 10th level. This is Necrovol, the ancient city of hell. Beyond the walls here you can see the central citadel that acts as sort of a core to the city. The design of the whole area is very circular with sharp pieces, and there are organic elements all over it with the sort of evil and sort of rundown castle aesthetic. I think it is something I can translate particularly well into a build of my own. So this is the style I want to follow closely, and now with this image in mind, and to explain a little more what is going on for my build, I'd like to show you all what I have done so far. And here we are. This part is a very closely referenced build to the image I had shown previously. Obviously, there's still a ton of creative liberties on the gate here, but this part of the build acts as a proof of concept to the whole project, essentially being a snapshot of sorts of the image previously shown, just redone in Minecraft. As I go deeper into the build, it'll be much more my own thing, but the feeling and sense of scale that comes from the gates leading up to the citadel itself is what I really wanted to capture here. And of course, the big thing I wanted to work with going into this build are the new tuff blocks. These blocks are fantastic and provide so much versatility with its shades and textures that I can actually get away with the majority of this part of the build being made up of tuff variants. More on that later. The walls themselves are a bit simple. I wanted to create an interesting pattern with these chiseled tuff blocks, and in mass I think the design comes together pretty well while looking like a pretty structurally strong wall. Here I did these side structures that look like they have energy being provided and potentially stored from lava, something that creates a bit of story and functionality. Then these simplified version of the central walls that can easily be extended as far as I need. The retaining walls are even simpler, and that's because you are not really meant to have your eyes drawn there. You don't want to create too much visual clutter when doing a big structure. And mind, when this whole thing is done, there's theoretically going to be a giant pillar to look at instead. But what I did here will complement what I will do for the surrounding area very nicely. I also did these cool lava waste pipe things to show a bit of functionality to the structure, which complements those energy bars and great things on the side here. That will be taking the lava flow, all the stuff that creates reasoning and sense to bring life to a build. You may have noticed, however, that there is a big element missing in my snapshot here. No, it is not the citadel, and it won't be for a while. Sorry about that. That is a scary thing to tackle. No, I've got a big thing to do for the front lawn here though, and I'll be able to take care of it in one quick swoop, so I set up a camera and you'll get to see something pretty cool rise. Oh yeah, here we go. Now we talking business. Something I was reminded of when I built the plant not too long ago is that I really enjoy building big creatures. Back in like 2013, 2015, whatever, very old Minecraft days, I would spend a lot of time on those old plot creative servers, just building various monsters, animals, whatever large living thing I felt like. Definitely not nearly as well as I can today, but it's something that I've definitely missed a ton. But anyways, you might know that Doom has a ton of creatures with interesting designs to recreate. In front of you is the Titan that guards the front gate of the Citadel. And honestly, I am incredibly satisfied where this organic build landed. When I finished the vegetable, I said I constantly put myself in a perpetual loop of tinkering whenever I build organics. But there's only a couple small tweaks I want to make here, then I'm most likely 99% done working on this guy. I am happy with its pose. Proportionally, it might be a little odd, but it's a style and scale theme, and I think its overall shape and final design looks good. Color-wise, I'm not going to leave it as a flat sandstone color. I'm going to save texturing them for after I do its surrounding terrain. Those sort of go together. Also, it's a small thing, but I really like the blocky nature here as well because it reminds me of the classic pixelated Doom sprites. Anyways, one more thing I got done for this build today is make the Titan not look like a carrot in the dirt by doing some of its surrounding terrain. To do this, I simply recorded my POV while I worked because I have a ton of stuff I want to talk about to sort of officially, properly introduce the build as well as my mindset, and I can create a nice background montage out of that. So a big thing this build does for me is scratch a couple itches I have had for a while. First is working with the Doom Eternal art design. That game is just incredible with its architecture and world building. It's also unique and fantastical with those sort of cybernetic medieval themes. I don't even know what to call it, but it's just one of my favorite games to look at. But unfortunately, if you've ever played Doom, you'll know it's like trying to appreciate the paint job of a sports car going 40 over on the highway. Ever since I first played Doom Eternal not too long ago, let me check, about 4 years ago. And with every subsequent playthrough, I've just wanted to come back and recreate the feel of what I've seen. Doing this in Minecraft, however, I felt there was always two issues. First, I never felt the block palette that was available would be sufficient enough to do what I wanted. I probably could make something comparable, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't capture the proper feel that is presented in its origin. The Citadel uses a lot of darker, stony colors and textures, and you might think Deep Slate would cover that, but unfortunately, no. The color of Deep Slate, while having good uses, is just too dark. The original structure is already in a very dark environment, and despite the structure having very dark coloring, it still needs the chance to pop out against a dark background. Good old reliable classic stone brick, while being a good option, is simply too bright, which in large proportions would lead it to look too much like a typical medieval style castle. So tough comes in handy here, providing a perfect middle ground with more than enough texture to use it as a majority of the build. Secondly, I don't think I would have been able to do it justice. One, I've never had the drive to dedicate a ton of time to a project. I'm used to starting a small scale project, finishing it up, and kind of abandoning the world because I don't feel the need to continue, or abandoning a large project because I don't have a great way to share what I'm doing. And two, the push to be a better builder is actually very recent. I almost 100% played on 1.8.9 until 1.18 came out around the end of 2021, essentially meaning I spent about 7 years limiting myself to classic style Minecraft, and by extension not having the drive to improve what I'm building by only working with only the same boring stuff that was available in 2015. This all has led to now, with the recent 1.21 update and the new tough blocks, as well as a couple years of improvement, I am finally bringing myself to build something cool, referencing something I have a ton of love for, that I am willing and excited to put my time into just to show all you weirdos on the internet. So then, the most important part of this build for me is the long-term, single continuous project part. This thing is going to be big, no question about it. You may say the cities I am working on also provide a long-term single continuous thing, but there's a small difference here. The cities require new creative thought for each addition I want to make. What I would like is one single thing I can continuously add onto, with plenty of options to add it onto as I please, which is something the Necrovol Citadel can help with. I mean, you are currently watching me spend 2 hours simply digging or replacing blocks. It's not like this building is completely mindless and uncreative though. I am making a custom lava pit, of course. But why is this different from working on a city? The reason this is a bit different is that this work is rather modular, a bit repetitive. And with the scale I'm working at, I have a ton of bulk work to do that once I have a vision for, which I do have a very clear vision, I can happily spend a ton of time on it without needing to go through my extensive design process every time I want to make an addition. This is why every other project of mine becomes stagnant. Like I've said, they're filled with smaller pieces that need to be thought out before working on them, creating a shorter work timeline as well as giving me a hard stopping point when the pieces are pretty quickly considered done. I hope what I said kind of makes sense because I'm really good at being incoherent and there's a lot going into this. So anyways, enough rambling, let's see the end product. So, I may have done a bit more than my montage may have led to. In all honesty, this build idea has come back to me very spontaneously, and the turnaround has been so quick because of how ripe the inspiration is. I genuinely mean it when I say this is something I've wanted to do for about 4 years now, and I'm happy to see it working out so well already. Case in point on the motivation thing, for this video I only intended on this one being a short introduction to this build, doing the wall, maybe lay out some guidelines for later, but as you can see I got the wall in as planned, but then I did the retaining walls, then I designed the monster, got it on this world and installed the chains. That's when I realized I wouldn't really be able to record it for a video, so I decided I'll get started on this lava pit around the monster. Then I don't know what happened, I just started this mountain. Now the mountain isn't as impressive as it might initially look, it's still a hollow facade, but I wanted to try something a little different than my usual mountainish terrain work, which typically all ends up being very smoothened out, straight shot down kind of thing. I wanted to try getting a bit of a jaggedy feel to the slope, and I think I achieved that a bit by doing these sort of terrace things. I had to Google that. I'm not a geology kind of shrimp. See, I barely know what the geological terms for any of my training would be. Anyways, from this perspective, you can actually see the extent of my facade work. From most angles at the front, this whole piece of the project looks complete through the back, but with mindful block placements and being thoughtful with perspective, it really only is a cardboard cutout. But don't worry, this won't stay a facade. So then after that, I started with the ridge thing, part of the mountain going down. But then I decided it would look pretty neat if I did a lava pool and lava fall, to create a bit of a sense of movement, as well as making the base pools not look so stagnant. Also so that it doesn't look like these waste pipe things are the sole provider of substance in these flowing basin things. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I built this bit of mountain stretching across here, providing a point for the lava fall, and creating a cool flat step thing for another lava pool, and adding more to the mountains, and by extension the step back portrait view of this space. So I finished that up, and I decided it would be weird to show off this whole thing and only have one side of the lava pool done, and the other side a guideline with lava flowing into grass, so I decided to mostly finish this whole area of terrain up. The design I went with for these lava pools might be a little odd. Obviously, there's an answer to the lava pool problem. You might have heard there's a little built-in feature in Minecraft called lava. It does the orange hot things, it can float down, it functions as a liquid. But being real, in high proportions, default Minecraft lava looks kind of ugly. And I don't want to deal with the annoying lava while I'm building, especially since there's a ton of work I have to do around it. And the amount of time it would take to collect and place individual lava buckets to all be source blocks on a huge plane would be insane. So I opted to do this the fun custom way. I started with a layer of orange terracotta, wool, magma blocks, which gives the feeling of thick, sludgy, how you'd expect lava. But then I left a gap before adding a glass layer, which is what makes it feel liquidy, and as far as I know it is very unrealistic for lava to be clear and liquidy in any way, but this is my fantasy world and it adds a little bit of depth, especially for the surrounding terrain and monster, which just helps everything around it look a lot less flat, and less tacked on to a flat surface. Personally, I'm about 90% sold on the effect, but I don't really know what else I could do to improve it. It's also just more fun to jump around on. Oh, also this campfire smoke along the edges stuff. They help make the lava feel more alive and add some kinetic energy. Little thing. Lastly here, I did the bridge connecting the front of the terrain to the Citadel gates here. First part of it is a bit of a mountainous path, using these deep slate variants to give a nice beaten path look, while the tops of the chiseled tuff give a nice established feeling. This all leads and connects to a proper bridge, now using a stony mix with darker edges and proper fencing with lanterns, which helps a bit with the transition from hellscape to a more structured development up top here. And I think that's officially everything I've done here so far. And there's still a ton of additions I want to make to just this area alone. Just to give an idea on where my mind is going with this, obviously I gotta build a retaining mountain for the other side, but then I want to try to create some custom burnt or charred up trees, do some ruined pillars and lanterns on the natural path, finish up terraining this front area, but I am wrapping it up here for today because somehow the next part of this build is even bigger and has taken a lot longer to complete than I anticipated. You know, this piece is going to look so cool when it's done, and this is pretty much just the front lawn to a much bigger project. I've got a good start on what's coming next, and oh man, it is looking so good. Hope y'all like this one as much as I do, because I am so excited to be back, and even though I know not a lot of people will see this, I'm still so excited to share what I'm doing with a couple of y'all. And of course, as always, if there's any feedback to be had, I would love to hear it. That's gonna be all from me today. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all later.